Hi everybody, welcome back to Green Life Indoors. It's Moira here. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you're doing well. Today I wanted to talk about 5 indoor plants hacks you can do to keep your indoor plants happy. The first one is light. You might have been gifted with a plant and you don't quite know what to do with it, where to place it when it comes to light requirements. And the truth is, all plants will appreciate and they will love it if you give them a bright environment, a bright lit environment. Yes, some plants will do okay in a low light environment. They will do okay in a medium light environment. But the truth is, if you move them from that spot and put them in a bright lit environment, they will thrive for you. So if you are not sure where to put that plant, put it in a bright lit environment. Don't expose the leaves to a direct sun, because then the sun will scorch the leaves. Just put them in a bright lit environment. If the sun is coming through the window, pull it away from the window a bit where they don't get scorched by the sun, and you will see that plant will do absolutely well for you. The second one is water. You might be wondering, am I watering my plants well? Am I giving them enough water? When do I water my plants? Okay, this is what I do. With me, I'll just pull a plant just to show you. I trust my fingers. I always tell people out there to say, you know what? Use what God has already blessed you with. Use your fingers. I trust my fingers. Now you take your plant, any plant in your house, take your plant and stick your finger all the way down. And if you feel the soil at the bottom, right there, if you feel the soil is moist, leave that plant alone. It's not time to water yet. It is still fine. But if you stick your finger all the way down and you feel it's dry, then it's time to water that plant. Now, I trust my fingers. Trust me, it works. I don't only use my fingers. I also have a moisture meter, but trust me when I say I trust my fingers more than I trust my moisture meter. I love it for my big plants, my big pot plants. But otherwise, for all my small plants or my medium-sized plants, I use my fingers to check if it's time to water. But if you have been, you'll see as you continue to learn your plants and you continue to care for your plants, you will know, learn to pick up your pots. For me, you will know when you pick up your pot whether it's time to water or not. When it's dry, you will know how it feels like when it's dry, and you will know how heavy it feels like when it's wet. That way you will know it's time to water or not. So with me, most of my plants, I just pick them up and I know it's time to water. And if I'm not sure, I use my fingers. And with my daughter Ofense, I have she's got all these wooden sticks in her room. I've shown her how to use them. That's another hack. You might be feeling like, no man, I don't want to put my finger in the soil. And trust me, there's days I don't feel like that, because then I feel like, there's days I don't feel like that, putting my finger in the soil. Then I use a wooden stick and see how well it works. Now, if you stick it in the soil, you put it all the way down. I'm gonna try and put it all the way down, and then you take it out. And if you take it out and it comes out with soil, looking moist, then you know it's not yet time to water. And for this plant, definitely it's not yet time to water. But if you put it in and it comes out clean without any soil on it, then you know your plant is dry. That's another hack. So that's how you know it's time to water your plants. So use your fingers. Check the soil with your finger. Go all the way in until you can't get there. You can't go down anymore, and feel the soil. If it's dry, water. If it's moist, right there at the bottom, leave it alone. Otherwise, you can use your wooden stick. It comes out with soil, you leave it alone. It comes out dry without any soil on it, it's time to water. So yeah, those are the watering hacks. Then trust me, you won't have issues with root rot, because then you won't overwater your plants. Never water your plants without checking if they need a drink. Don't just assume it. check it if they need a drink. Use your fingers, use a moisture meter, pick it up, do everything you can before you give it a drink to make sure that it needs it. You are better off leaving it alone if you are not sure, and giving it a day or two to be sure, than to water it when it doesn't need a drink, because then you'll deal with root rot. And once you have root rot, before you know it, that plant will be gone, unless if you save it quick enough. So there we go, that's watering. And the next one is fertilizing. Now, fertilizing is very important for our plants. My kids always ask me, Mom, why do you have to do that? I mean, my fertilizer smells, so they don't like it at all. So they always ask me, do you really have to do that, Mom? So I do it when they're not around, like when they're at school, and by the time they come from school, I mean, it's cleared up. I mean, give it an hour or two, you forget you fertilized. But it's very important for your plants. It's very important to fertilize your plants. You know, what happens is, well, with me, if I'm fertilizing today, the next time, obviously I fertilize when I water. So if I'm fertilizing today, the next time I water, I don't fertilize that plant again. So I skip. That's how I do it. So you can say every second week or every third week, I fertilize my plants. So it's very important to fertilize your plants, especially in a growing season. So with me, winter season, my growing season, I fertilize every second to third week. And then when it comes to winter, I do it sometimes once a month. And when I feel it's needed, I really don't. I stay a little bit away from fertilizer unless if I see that plant is still producing new growth, then I will fertilize my plants. And it's important when you buy a fertilizer, please read the instructions and try and follow those instructions. If they say 5 milliliters, please don't. If they say 5 milliliters, don't go put more. You're better off putting less than more. Don't overfeed your plants. It's not good. But go and read whichever one you go for. I always go for organic, but whichever one you go for, ask for advice when you get to the nursery, and they will advise you which ones are the best to go for. And once you decide which one you're gonna go with, trust me, they will help you on how to use it. That's fertilizing. And cleaning. Now I'm going to talk about cleaning. I always talk about cleaning the plants. It's important to clean our plants. We take a bath. Well, as for me, I take a bath or a shower twice a day. My goodness. I mean, how much more about our plants? We clean our houses. We tidy up our houses. So the plants also needs to be cleaned. They will appreciate that attention of you going around the house with a microfiber cloth, or a dish with water and a liquid soap in it, or taking them to the sink and rinsing them up. They will really appreciate that. Now they won't only look beautiful for you, nice and clean and appealing to the eye, but it's also healthy for your plants. It's absolutely healthy for your plants. They will be able to absorb the sunlight. Now, when they have dust on them, unfortunately, what that does do is it clogs up the pores on the leaves, and your plants are not able to absorb the light it needs, because they feed also from the sunlight. So it's important to clean your plants. Now you can use a dry microfiber cloth. Now if it's something you do regularly, trust me, you'll get away with a dry microfiber cloth. But if it's not something you do regularly, because sometimes what happens is if you leave it for too long, that dust becomes sticky and it sticks onto the plants. You'll see if you try to wipe it, it doesn't quite come off. Then that means you need to take it to the sink and really wash it thoroughly, So, but if it's something you do regularly, like I do, you'll see you'll get away. On other days, you'll get away with just this, nice and dry as it is. Or you make it damp and you go around and you just wipe it. Or you take a spray bottle, put clean water in it, and put a dish liquid soap, just a little bit of a dish liquid soap in there, and mix it up and spray your plants and wipe them, or take them to the zinc or the tub or the shower. What I do when I do that method, I make sure I spray them with that dish liquid soap mixture. I cover the entire plant with it, and then I put it under the shower, or I put it in the tub, and then I wash the leaves and I rinse it and I leave it there to dry out, for the leaves to dry, and that's it. And the beautiful thing about it is that you are not only helping your plants to breathe and to absorb the sunlight, but also it prevents pests. It prevents pests. So if it's something you do regularly, you will be on top of things when it comes to pests. You will discover them earlier if there's any, and you will have less of them. Trust me, you will. And yeah, and the last one is repotting. The last one is repotting. Yes, I've made notes, because sometimes we sit in front of the camera and we talk, and you know these things is things you do all the time, and then you forget a point and you sit down like, oh, I forgot to talk about that. So yeah, I did my point. So if you see me keeping on looking down, it's because I'm checking where I am now. So that's the last one. That's your repotting. Now I'll use this plant again. Let's take out this stick before we forget it in there. I'll use this plant again. Now if you see, surprise surprise, if you see roots coming out at the bottom, this one, there's roots coming out of it, but it's not a lot, so we're not quite there yet. To be very honest with you, for someone else, they'll feel, oh my goodness, it's time to repot. No, I used to feel like that in the beginning. As a beginner, in the beginning, trust me, I repotted my plants whenever I saw, this is even longer, whenever I saw just a little bit of a root showing at the bottom of my pot, I'll be like, oh, now it's time to repot, and I'll run and get a pot and I'll repot. And trust me, it didn't do some of my plants well, in the sense that it disturbed the growth of the plant, or yeah, it just, some of my plants didn't appreciate it. But over time, I learned to leave my plants alone, and I'm glad. It's the best lesson I ever learned. But I learned it the hard way. Because I repotted whenever I felt like it, whether it was because I wanted to change the pot because I didn't like the pot, or whether it was because I thought it was root bound and it was not. Just because the roots are sticking out at the bottom, it doesn't necessarily mean it's pot bound, So even with this one, I know it is not pot bound, but when you begin to see, and you can't see soil anymore, because I still see soil. If you look there, I still see soil, and you see roots coming out even at the top, and your pot, is getting all bulky, or then it's time to repot your plants. Don't just quickly do it because you feel like changing your pot. If you bring a plant home from a nursery shop, and you've checked the soil and you're okay with the soil it is sitting in, my advice to you would be, leave it alone in that nursery pot. Like this one, I've left it alone. I've never taken it out of its nursery pot. Leave it alone in there. And I've had this plant for years. I think probably 3 years, or this is its 4th year. It was tiny when I first got it, and look how big it's getting. I mean, it's bigger now compared to what it was. And I've never reported it. I've never given it a, but I'm sure soon I'm going to have to. But still, not now. With what, I mean, when I feel it, even when I press it, it doesn't dry out too quickly. It is not drying out too quickly on me, and the roots are not as dense as you think. At the bottom, there's still a lot of soil which you see at the bottom, and there's no roots coming out on the top. So I don't even want to bother it. So be sure that your plant is pot bound before you decide to give it another size pot. Be sure that it is pot bound. It has outgrown that pot completely. It has outgrown it. Because some plants, they love it. They love being tight and snug in the pot. So don't go disturb them. But anyway, that's it. It's been fun. I hope this will help someone out there. I wish I knew all this when I started collecting indoor plants. It's one thing to do garden outside. Trust me, it's a different ball game altogether. Bringing plants indoors. I started outside. I've always done gardening outside from as long as I can remember. But when I started bringing plants indoors, I wish I had this information I'm giving you now, because I would have saved myself a whole lot of trouble. But anyway, it's been fun. Thank you so much for joining me. Until next time. Bye.